candy today or something like that, celebrating Martin Luther King weekend, and y'all came here. I am so impressed. You guys need to give yourselves a hand. Yeah. My name is Aretha Olivares, and I want to welcome you to the first quarterly panel discussion. And the theme of this panel discussion is, where do we go from here? Yeah, she said that's what I want to know, and I understand that. I get a lot of calls. I don't know, some of you know me, some of you don't, but I've been a nonprofit consultant since 1999, helping people set up 501c3s, and probably about 50% of you in here are my clients. Yeah, see, a few of you. And I always get the call, I got my 501c3, I'm so excited. Okay, what do I do now? Because getting the 501c3 is really the easy part. I know you hear rumors like, oh, it's so hard. That's the easy part. The work starts once you get it. Actually, it starts before that, because your plan should be laid out. And so I get calls, what do I do about this? And who do I talk to about grants? And what do I do about accounting? And what do I do about this? The calls just keep coming in. So I said, you know what? It's been burning inside me. I need to bring in other people, because one person can't do everything. So I said, I need to bring in experts, people who've been in the industry, who help nonprofits, to help the nonprofits. We've had multiple people that we invited. Some couldn't make it because it's a holiday weekend, and so schedules changed. But I want to thank the panelists who did make it today and who could come to share. And I'm going to introduce you to them momentarily. I'm going to read their bio before we start. Before we get started, I do want to go over a few housekeeping. I don't know if you tried to find the bathroom yet. It's almost impossible. I don't know how they did that, but just so you know, the restroom is on the other side of the elevator, but there is a hallway that you have to go down. So you can't tell it's a hallway because it looks like an office. So you go down the hallway and you'll see the restroom as soon as you go through the hallway. Okay, so when we have a break, if you try to find the restroom and say, you know what, I give up, that's where it is. It's on the other side of the hallway. You have some notepads in front of you, and I want to thank Direct One for being one of our sponsors, and one of the founders here, one of the account managers, Belinda Szymanski, and also one of the founders are here from Direct One. Would you stand up so everybody will know who you are? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also, one of our vendors, I wanted her to come in because she is an expert at setting up 501c3. She is an expert at doing 990s, which you will have to do a 990 as a nonprofit. She's also an expert at doing for-profit corporation tax return. And her name is Demetrius Crane. Demetrius, would you wave? Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So what I wanted to do, because of time and because of space, and we're recording it, I wanted you to write down, as we're going along, write down your question for the panelists on your notepad. And we'll pick them up on a break or as we proceed throughout the day. So write down your questions, and I'll ask the panelists as we move on. Get ready. I want you to save the dates for the next event. The next one is April 11th, 2015. And that theme is, get this, don't mess with taxes. How not to jeopardize your 501c3 status. Did you guys know that in 2011 and 2012, 250,000 nonprofits lost their 501c3 status? A lot of it wasn't about what they didn't know, but sometimes it's about being miseducated too. So we're going to invite panelists in to teach you how not to jeopardize your 501c3 status, and that is on April 11th. Don't mess with taxes. And I know everybody's going to be here for July 25th. That is, think like a grant maker. Okay, you're not excited? Everybody wants grants, right? But you got to learn to think like a grant maker. So that's gonna be a kickoff to our September conference. And the conference, we're gonna have multiple breakdown sessions. We're gonna breakout sessions. We're gonna be downstairs in the main room, but then we'll have breakout sessions up here and on the second floor. It's gonna be awesome. So at that event in September, which is be the conference, I'm kind of giving stuff away, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Okay, think like a grant maker. It's gonna be a session for you to learn how to think like a grant maker and learn how to write a grant, but we're going to also teach you how to review a grant. So if you want to learn how to be a grant reviewer, you can ask me about that a little later or send me an email, because from that session, one of you is going to win a grant at the conference. Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's going to be awesome. And you can register anytime, but I just want to remind you of the date. The conference date is September 26th. And that theme is We Are Better Together. September 26th. So I said a little earlier kind of why I started to do these panel discussions because I was getting the phone calls. But also, I know I started a nonprofit in 1999, but the nonprofit kind of got shut down. Why is it got shut down? I shut it down because I got recalled back to active duty during 9/11 for 2 years. And so you can't do anything without the help, right? And so I know a lot of you feel like you're alone when you start nonprofits. We're alone. Nobody knows about us. Nobody's going to help us. There's a lot of things that go through your mind, and you kind of isolate yourself. You don't have to agree with me. I know because I get the phone calls. You kind of isolate yourself. And so I want you to know that you're not in this alone. There are people in this room that you probably have synergy with and you don't even know about. So we're gonna network. We're gonna get to know each other too as we go out through the day. Is that all right? All right. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and read the bios of each panelist. I may not go in order, so just wave your hand so they'll know who you are. I'll start with Lori Stout. Lori is a major account manager with iHeartMedia, previously known as Clear Channel. And I don't know if you know, but Clear Channel is one of the largest multimedia companies in the world. Lori has been helping businesses increase their exposure and their bottom lines through multimedia marketing campaigns in Florida for over 30 years. And each year, advertising becomes more complicated. Here's some of the things that Lori says, which I love. Newspapers are delivered to desktops. That's true, right? Rather than the doorsteps now. We still get the paper, but still, most of you find your news, Yahoo News and all that on your computer. Mobile phones are now the new transistor radios. It's true. And then people search Google rather than through the phone book. So Lori's going to talk about that and so much more. Lori also works with a lot of nonprofits in addition to helping the bottom line businesses grow, helping business grow their bottom line, Lori kind of helps Florida state government and nonprofits with projects providing them help to improve their quality for the life of Floridians. Lori was named Prevention Leader of the Year by the Office of Drug Control and Florida Department of Children and Families, and she received the Spirit of Living Award for the NOTE Task Force, and NOTE stands for Narcotic Overdose Prevention Education. Let's welcome Lori. Next, I would like to introduce Georgiana Tynes. Georgiana is a native of Florida, of Central Florida? Miami is in the house. She earned her master's degree in health service administration from the University of Central Florida, and she's the owner of GKT Consulting. Her fundraising career spans more than 13 years, and she's written local, state, and federal grants in the following sectors: healthcare, education, housing, child advocacy, and literacy, raising millions of dollars for nonprofits which have benefited the Central Florida community. She also worked representing both grantors and grantees and understands both sides of the spectrum in the funding process. Currently, she provides grant writing and contract management services to nonprofits with varying budgets, so that's something to know. She's a certified grant professional through the Grant Professional Certification Institute, and she's been the past president of the Grant Professionals Network of Central Florida and currently a member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the Central Florida chapter. Let's welcome Georgiana. Next is Javier Rodriguez. I'm going to read Javier's short version of his bio because he is just extra special. Javier is a career specialist specialized in nonprofit grant marketing, LinkedIn lead generation, sponsored development, military print magazine, and content editing. Javier is the founder of GI Money, which is a 501c3 print and digital media dedicated to providing active duty service members, veterans, and their military family access to high-level educational media. He is also with a new company called Dark Blue Media, which specializes in local lead generation, inbound nonprofit marketing, PPC, which you have to tell us what that means, campaigns, and Google Grant Management. I invited him because he is the Google Grant expert, and I have a secret to tell you, but I'm gonna hold on in a minute. I'll tell you in a minute. Would you welcome Javier? Next is Julie Tyndall. Julie is the Communication Outreach Manager with the City of Orlando Mayor's Office and Office of Community Affairs. Julie manages almost $3 million in the city funding to health and human service organizations and funding support of art and cultural organizations in Central Florida. Julie is responsible for the management, oversight, and monitoring of the City of Orlando's Mayor Matching Grant Program, which provides funding to nonprofit organizations, schools, neighborhood associations. And Julie also coordinates the volunteer and donations for the City of Orlando of Office of Emergency Management. She's the past president of the Central Florida chapter of the American Society of Public Administration. That's awesome. And the past president of the Grant Professionals Network. Do you know? You guys know each other? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Before joining the City of Orlando in April 2007, Julie worked both in the nonprofit domestic violence organizations and the private sector for 15 years. She's also worked in various positions at the local and statewide level, including providing crisis and support services to children, adults, legal advocacy, community and professional education, program management, and community organizing. In her spare time, which I don't know how she has any spare time, she enjoys finding and securing funding for innovative and passionate nonprofit organizations throughout the country. Would you welcome Julie Tyndall? And last but not least, this young lady is extra special to me. Her name is Stephanie Bowman. Stephanie is they're all special though. So Stephanie Bowman is the founder and president of One Heart for Women and Children. Stephanie's been a parenting instructor for over 10 years and has taken extensive training. I cannot understand this word, by Haley Hazelden. Those of you work in counseling, you know what that means. Hazelden, and Active Parenting Now. And she's certified in the Children's Learning Place with specialties in team building, self-esteem building, and effective communication. Stephanie has accumulated over 10,000 hours in volunteer service with various nonprofits that focus on strengthening the lives of women and children. Stephanie feeds the homeless. I want to say, not even weekly, almost every day. If there was 8 days a week, she'd be out feeding the homeless. But not only that, she also serves the community in various ways, and I will let you find out about that in just a moment when you hear from Stephanie. Would you please welcome Stephanie Bowman? Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, I know you want to know, why are we here? So I want to ask the panelists some questions, and as I'm asking questions, I know you're going to be thinking of questions to ask. So again, make sure you write down your questions on your notepads. I want to start with Georgiana. So you work with the Fundraising Professional Association. How important is fundraising to a nonprofit? Because everybody's focused on grants, and they'll spend their energy on getting grants when we know that takes time. So how important is fundraising to nonprofits? On the bottom, it should be lit up.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. Very important. Without funds, you can't do anything. You can't run your programs, you can't function, you can't carry on day-to-day operations. So it's very important to have a diversified, funding stream coming in, not just from grants. Grants solely should just be to get programs started, and then any continuation funding should come from basic other fundraising sources, whether it's special events, whether, depending on your program, if it's a program that you provide services where people have to pay a fee for service, other fundraising in terms of, like, you can have either like a planned giving program or different things like that. But definitely you should be doing something within your nonprofit to help to bring additional funds in and not just solely focus on grants.
Okay, you raised something. You said a key word that made me think, because I know a lot of nonprofits think that because you're a nonprofit, you can't make a profit, and everything you have to do is charitable, we have to give it all away. But you said something, 3 words. You said fee for services.
Yes. Yes,
Can
definitely.
nonprofits charge for their services? Can
Yeah, oh, definitely. People in general too, depending on whether they can afford it or not, doesn't have to be an expensive fee, it can be based on a sliding fee scale. But definitely, if you pay something, you value that service more than if you get it for free. I mean, everyone in here can agree with that. So,
Does everybody know the YMCA is a nonprofit organization? Does everybody pay fees, but there's a sliding scale? So, go ahead. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, that's something you needed to know. So we want to make sure that we get on the microphone since we're recording. Stephanie, I'm glad you made it. Stephanie, you started your nonprofit, and I've seen you throughout the years, your nonprofit grow, and it's just been amazing. But you started your nonprofit because you saw a need that needed to be fulfilled. I would love to hear what the process was like when you started your nonprofit. How easy was it? How hard was it? And where are you at now?
Thank you very much for asking that. And Aretha, thank you for allowing me to come in a little bit late. And it definitely takes more than just one person because my car broke down and Mom came to the rescue.
Hey, Mom.
Yes, and I say that because when we try and do anything alone, I alone can't do it, but we together can. And in the beginning, I thought that I could go out and seek all the answers and start my 501c3 by myself. And what I found is that there were a lot of roadblocks because I didn't have the answers. And as I was trying to seek those answers, it was like another door shut, another door shut. And then when I started making the phone calls to people that I already knew, that already had the answers, it made the process a lot easier. So I think that the important part is not doing it alone. And it's workshops like this, I think that are going to be very, very beneficial. There's a lot of resources out there, and I'm just going to say, reach your hand out, because when we ask, it comes very quickly. And again, it's about reaching our hand out and asking. When I was homeless 16 years ago, and there were a lot of other things that went along with that, with domestic violence, and when I found myself hungry and needing resources, I didn't know where to find those resources because I didn't know where to go to find those resources, and I didn't know how to ask. So I found myself in some pretty low places in my life, and people came to give me a hand up, and as people gave me that hand up, not the hand out, so I love what you said, as people gave me that hand out, whether it was come help me clean my house and I'll help you with food, or come help me plant this garden and I'll make sure you have gas for your vehicle, that is how One Heart really started. One Heart for Women and Children started because there were people that had a need, and because I had those resources, because I went out to seek those, we had a handful of resources. So with those resources, we said we wanted to form a 501c3 so we could go back and give that back to others. So that's how we started. And I think that it's really important as you're walking through the 501c3, the 501c3 paperwork, to be able to have a workbook or have somebody there, whether you're hiring somebody or whether you're doing it one-on-one with somebody that already knows how to do it. I think that is one of the things that we see is people coming back and saying, our paperwork came back because this box wasn't checked or because wording was incorrect. There's a long wait. There's a much longer wait when we don't have somebody that is assisting us with that paperwork.
Thank you so much. I'm getting some requests in the back. People, they want you to stand. The people in the back, can you see them? Okay, all right, well, we'll just keep going the way we are, so. Okay, Julie Tyndall. It's so funny, when I thought of this question to ask you, I got a call just the other day from somebody in Fort Lauderdale. She said, I heard you write grants. I said, well, right now I'm kind of busy. I can refer you to grant writing. She goes, I said, tell me about your nonprofit. What are you trying to do? It means, she said, I need a house I want to start a transition home. I need a house to do this, and I need a house to do that. And I was having this conversation with my sister too. We were riding down the road. She goes, "All these people starting these daycares. You can get a grant for that." I was like, let me explain to her. So I had to explain to her. So I want to ask you. Everybody assumes that the city or county has property to give to nonprofits, and it may be true. I don't know. You can tell us whether it's true or not. But if they do, what's the process for getting such property?
Well, the standard answer is we do not have property. But there have been some situations where the city and county have been able to partner with nonprofit organizations to do specific projects. One recently that we had in the Paramore community is that there was a vacant lot that the city owned that was being unused, that was kind of ugly. And the neighborhood transformed it into the Paramore Community Gardens. So if anybody's familiar with that, right there in Robinson, yes, it is gorgeous. And the residents come together. It's a beautiful project. And they used a facility use agreement with the city. It's a short-term agreement where they can use that property for the purpose of the garden, and then we renew the agreement. You know, if we ever get in a situation where we need that property, they understand we can take it back over, but for right now, they're using it for that purpose. I know other municipalities have properties. You know, I know that the city and the county typically don't provide properties to nonprofits, but I know in other municipalities there have been agreements where, you know, there's a 5-year lease for $1 a year, you know, that sort of thing. We hear about that. I don't hear that as much in Central Florida. So I'm sorry that we don't have a wealth of property to give to nonprofits.
Okay, well, that's a good answer.
Sorry.
I know that at one time I served on the amoeba board, and they did something called rent abatement, which is kind of what you was talking about, where they gave an organization a building for use, and they didn't pay rent for 2 years. So you can look for something like that. But she said that it may be rare, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
To reach out and at least ask is each municipality and county government have their real estate, Office of Real Estate. They have the, you know, individuals that monitor the different holdings for that municipality or that government. You can always reach out to them, you know, to determine whether there are some available.
Okay, Stephanie, you want to add something to that?
Yes, in the purpose of rent, when we found our home base for One Heart, we have 5,250 square feet. And we went to the owner of the property and told him what we were doing. And he gave us the first year free. And then the second year, he started it at $500 for January, and then went up $50 each month. And now we're up to almost $2,000, but he maxed it at that. So there's different opportunities. You know, it's not owning the property, although for rent purposes, to be able to hold your business out of, there's opportunities like that as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because that's important. That's one thing I do want you to do as well. Be passionate about your nonprofit. Tell everybody what you're doing, because you never know. You may tell them that you were homeless one time, and they may have been homeless, and they say, oh, you know what? We're sisters, so I'm just going to give it to you for free. You just never know. You just got to keep talking about it and let people know what you're doing, because people really do care. I wanted to ask Lori a question. Lori Stout, we've had conversations, and I myself have called other organizations, because I hear for nonprofits, we hear about all the benefits that nonprofits can get, PSAs, public service announcements. Can you tell us how that works, and you know, what's the process of getting that?
Sure. Things have changed over the years in media, and one of the things that has changed is how the media deals with public service announcements. Some years ago, the FCC, who regulates us, said that we don't have to run PSAs anymore, which is not such a good thing for nonprofit organizations. A lot of radio stations and television stations can run a 1-hour public affairs show, and that meets their requirements to the FCC for their public service. Now, a lot of radio stations still run PSAs like we do, and television stations do as well. but they aren't as plentiful as they used to be. For a radio station, for example, if we don't fill all the allotted spots that we have for commercials, it's better for us to run music because the music is what people are coming to us for, and that boosts our ratings. So you have to get creative if you want to get a PSA on. There are lots of different ways, and I mean, I have a million of them, so I couldn't tell all of them to you right now. But one of the things that I will tell you is it kind of goes back to what Georgiana was saying. Is you get what you pay for, and you can ask for a free PSA, and they'll take your PSA. It might get on, it might not get on. If it does get on, it might run overnight. There's just no guarantee, and you don't get a report saying when it ran, so you really don't know. And I'm sorry to have to give you that news, but a way to get around that is by doing paid PSAs. Several years ago, when I started working with state government agencies and nonprofit organizations, we established a new thing for nonprofits and government agencies that we would give one bonus for every one paid. And so that doubles the investment. And then there are also opportunities on some stations, depending upon who they are, where you can get additional PSAs in addition to a schedule that you place with us. Or you might be able to take advantage of some unsold inventory. So that's a way for you to get your PSAs on the air. Now, another thing is our program directors and our operations managers get bombarded with requests, whether they're phone call requests or whether they're PSAs that are mailed in or emailed in. I mean, hundreds a week. And so what you want is you want to get yours to rise to the top. So you have to be creative. I was talking with one of our operations directors earlier this week in preparation for this, and he said a lot of them come in and they are so boring. So he said it starts with the subject line. If you're sending an email, it starts with the subject line. Make it creative, make it interesting, make it compelling, make it something that they want to read. Another thing did this go off? No, it's
There
working.
you go.
Okay. Another thing he said is people are so busy. Make it interesting. Make it funny if you have to, but you've got to make it pop. And write it as if somebody's going to read it verbatim. Everybody's busy. They're not going to take time to rewrite your PSA. So make sure it times out 30 seconds. Some stations run 15s, so 30s and 15s are good. Make sure it times out exactly, has all the right information in it, and also.
In the middle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it sounded like it was going in and out. Oh, hold it towards middle. Oh, okay. All right, thank you. And if you can record the PSAs, some of the talent will read it live, and some of the stations only run recorded ones, and it's different. It doesn't, it's all across the board. So if you can get it recorded by somebody who's good. Don't, like I said, boring is bad. Even if you could get that emotion in there, maybe you're going to have a child talk or somebody tell their story, but hopefully that helps.
Good, yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you so much. Javier, I call him the Google grant expert. How many of you know that Google wants to give nonprofits $10,000? Yeah, I call him the Google grant expert. So I'm going to definitely meet with him after this myself, because State of the Nonprofit Community is a nonprofit 501c3. I just want to let you know that. So, Javier, I do want to ask you a question about the Google grant. I mean, tell us about it. What can you share with us about the benefits to having that Google grant?
Thanks for the question, Aretha. My name is Javier. Just one more repetition. The Google grant, I'll tell you my story about it. I didn't know anything about it. My background is print, so I'm kind of passionate about print, magazines. my nonprofit is about military families and trying to provide education, and our uniqueness is the print. But having that said, someone told me about the grant, the Google grant, just around the time when I got the 501c3 approved. Thanks for the help, Aretha. And I looked into it, so I kind of felt like that old commercial, the last person to get the sun pass. You know, are you that last person? I really didn't put much stock into Google and stuff. I found out about it, and essentially, I'm gonna try to give examples. It's like store credit. So I'm sorry, it's not $10,000 that goes right into your bank account. I wish. It's more like they're giving you $10,000 worth of what they call AdWords. AdWords is when you actively search for something on Google, that's their AdWords and network. So it's not the banner ads that pop up and can get kind of annoying. So you get up to $10,000 to use a month on that network. So that's $120,000. For whatever reason, if you surpass that, they actually have I guess like a follow-up or supplemental that can take you up to $40,000 a month. So with that, you can use it for anything and everything. Some of the ideas that I've heard before, that's what you want to use the grant money for. You want to promote your events, you want to promote fundraising, you want to promote anything your 501c3 is doing, what your mission is. That's what you want to use it for. I mean, for me, it was like an instant marketing budget, because I don't think that's something we really think about. Well, we need a website. Okay, yeah, we need a website, but then what? So when you hear about radio and you hear about TV, Google is essentially that. You're getting exposure. So I don't know, I can go on and on.
No, that's good. Stephanie, you have a question for him?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask him.
Okay.
So,
It's fairly simple. I've done it now for several companies. I just kind of fell into it. It's like I started learning something I didn't realize there was a need for and an interest in. So as I started helping other organizations, which I've helped several already, get it, for me it's really easy. But it's a straightforward online application process. It's Google. You know, you don't talk to anybody live. It's all automated online, and they have certain requirements that you can check beforehand to see if your nonprofit qualifies, and then you apply and you wait.
okay, let me ask you this, because I know some people in the room, they say, well, I'm not computer savvy, and I don't think I need that. I mean, we just got a small website. Why would they need to use this? How is it really gonna help them with the nonprofit?
It's an essential tool, like I mentioned before. Anything that you're trying to do and accomplish, if you're trying to reach out to a certain group saying, hey, we have help for your problem. If you're trying to promote an event, that may be a fundraising event. If you're trying to just disseminate information, all of the above, you can use the grant for, because you go online and through Google's network, you promote what you have going on. You essentially create multiple ads for one particular goal, or just one ad, and you change them around. And it's not like print where it's ink on paper and it's done. This is something you could change daily if you need to. If all of a sudden you have a shift, if all of a sudden there's an opportunity or something, you can change that and have it pretty much go live within 2-3 hours or less.
That is amazing. That's good to know. That is good to know. Well, I want to take a quick pause and ask you a question. Did everybody get a little ticket when you came in? Not everybody got a ticket? Okay, we'll make sure everybody get a ticket. Let's take a quick break. We'll make sure you guys get tickets, and then we'll come back. If you have questions for the for the panelists, if you pass your question down on your notepad to the end of the row, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. I got a lot of questions from people. So what I'm going to do is ask a few more questions of the panelists, and then I'm going to do your questions after the next break. We're going to just bombard them with a whole bunch of questions at one time. How about that? All right. I want Stephanie, if she would, tell us about, on a day-to-day, what your nonprofit does. Because I don't know if people realize, some people are starting nonprofit. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, do not quit your job. Don't quit your job. Don't do it. Not yet. Not yet. So tell us you know, day to day is like going out and feeding the homeless. And I hear so many stories from you, so I would love for you to tell us one of your stories when you've gone out to feed the homeless and things that happened that was unexpected.
Sure. And I will also second that. Don't quit your full-time jobs. I am a full-time volunteer for One Heart for Women and Children, and I work about 80, 90 hours a week, and that's probably under estimating the hours. And I do it because I'm so passionate about what I do, but I also do it, I've got the support of my husband who pays the bills, thank goodness for that. Yeah, but we are grant writing, but I didn't know how to do any of the grant writing. And again, I think that's the importance of events like this, so that some of the questions and the networking can happen. So we have 5,250 square feet, which is what we call home base in College Park. We have 3 different programs. We have many programs, but three of them that are the biggest. We're an emergency food pantry. We purchase between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds of food each week from Second Harvest. We purchase that food at 18 cents a pound. So when you do the math, every dollar can purchase 5.5 pounds of food. We put it out on Facebook, we put it out in email blasts, we put it out on GoFundMe. We are every single day, we are out there putting the information on how many families have been fed. We're putting the stories out so people can hear the testimonies. We're putting pictures out, obviously, with the permission of people that we're taking the pictures of. And I think that, you know, people want to give, right? People want to give, but they also want to know where they're giving. They want to make sure that you're authentic, and the money is really going to go where you say it's going to go. So what we say is, come on aboard. You know, we need the donors, but we also need that gift of time. So we have quite a few families and circles of friends and other nonprofit organizations that come in and help us to feed the hungry. We also have Trader Joe's in Winter Park that when they moved in, they partnered with us. And with that, part of the reason why they stayed with us, they had said they were going to try 3 different nonprofit organizations. And what we did is we wanted to make that difference. We wanted to say, you know, we wanted them to be able to say, wow, we want to keep that partner. And so what we did is we would take pictures of us picking up anywhere between 500 and 1,000 pounds of food 7 days a week. That was a very large commitment, but it's been amazing because all of our families are receiving fresh produce, fresh fruit, organic meats, and so it sets our food pantry aside also because there's a health change that's also happening with some of the families because now they're able to eat nutritiously. So with that, the importance of I say standing out, the importance of going in and saying, I want to make a difference, right? And I want to do this differently. There's a lot of people out there doing amazing things. But again, what you had said earlier, you know, that purple cow is what somebody had said to me. What is it that stands out about your organization on what you do? So we went in and we started taking pictures of us loading the truck and then unloading the truck and weighing all the food at home base. And then taking pictures of feeding people and on just our cell phones, getting those testimonies from people, and again, putting it up on social media. Because again, it's an instant. In 6 weeks, we have a teenage boy, he's 14 years old, he was borderline diabetic, and the doctor, in 6 weeks, this family made a life change. 6 weeks. His health has improved in 6 weeks. So that's one of the things that we do with the emergency food pantry. We go out and we feed hungry people also. So we go out on Paramore, which is one of the places that I ended up when I was homeless 16 years ago. And I was there for a very short time, but I was there long enough to know that I was human too. And regardless of how or why I ended up where I ended up, I wanted to be treated with dignity and respect also. And there were people that did that. People that came out and said, you don't have to eat out of a dumpster, or you don't have to, you know, fill in the blank, whatever that is. And so they helped me with that hand up, and that's what we do. So as we go, either whether it's Paramore or went to one of the trailer parks that we feed, provide food for is really what I want to say. And as we're doing that, we're finding that there's more families as they're receiving the food for free, that they're able to stay in their homes, some of them in the trailer park, some of them in some of the other homes. We feed people from Windermere all the way down to people that are homeless. We don't ask any questions. We've got a lot of families that are, they call working poor, where it's a matter of, do I spend my money buying groceries, or do I spend my money paying rent or keeping the electric on? And what we say is, you know, as long as you're helping yourself, right, as long as you are working as well, we want to come alongside and we want to come in and supplement that. So we also, one more quick story. We go out the last Sunday of every month for anybody that wants to sign up to go out and feed a hot meal down on Paramore area. And we have 17 more men and 2 women that are not homeless as a result of us going out and just getting a list of some of what they need. So as we're getting a list of what they need, we are also letting them know we can help provide the bicycles or the work boots so that they can get back to work. And what they do is they come in, and as they come in, they can earn $10 an hour in vouchers at our home base. So we have a thrift store also that has just opened, and with that, we've got a lot of different ways that people can come in and work for what they're receiving. Food is always free, that's a total separate, but as they come in and they're working, they're volunteering in our home base or with us somewhere, they're able to earn the $10 an hour in vouchers to spend for clothing, for shoes, for bicycles, for gas cards, whatever that might be.
Powerful.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Whew, a lot. She does a lot. She does a lot. Georgiana wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, just listening to Stephanie's story is very inspiring, and that's how each of you, I think your stories for your organization should be. And, you know, just as she said, you know, talking with people, reaching out, networking, that is so important in all that you do. And even with you sitting next to people, you should be exchanging your cards and exchanging, you know, the type of programs that you offer, just so that you can let each other know, because there's no greater resource than what we have right here in this room.
That's right.
One of the things that Stephanie said that really jumped out at me for being in the media was you said you get cell phone testimonies. I think that's awesome, because you could use those videos on a video web banner, and how compelling that would be for somebody to hear that message. So, just a thought.
That's good. I have a question for Julie. Since, you know, most everybody here has a 501c3, and so they think, you know, now I have a 501c3, the grants are going to start coming. They're going to start coming in. They think it's going to, you know, the 501c3 is kind of a magnet for grants, but people say, I'm ready for a grant now, and I know you get a lot of calls, but they may not know the process. So can you tell us about the process? And I want you to take your time on this one.
Okay. I'm going to use Stephanie as my example because we're working together to help bring some grants into her organization. So when did you receive your 501c3?
In 2009.
2009. Okay. So 5 years later, you were grant ready, right? Were there any grants that you applied for before then? No. Okay. So
He's embarrassing her.
No, because this is the reality. And when you became a nonprofit in 2009, when did you begin providing any level of service to the community?
Within a week?
Okay. And was it at the level that you're at now?
Absolutely not.
No. So it took her 5 years to get to this point, is my point. A lot of times people get their 501c3 and they say, I want a house. Well, what capacity does your organization have to run a transitional house? You know, and who's going to just give you a house? How do you demonstrate that you have the skills and the knowledge and the ability to run a transitional house? You know, I mean, it just doesn't happen overnight is kind of what I'm trying to allude to. Because it takes time and you need to build your organization. And like we've heard, don't leave your day job, you know, begin building your organization, building those partnerships, building those collaborations with other community organizations. Begin and start small. I always say start small and do well. A lot of times people, and I know, dream big, and I'm a big dreamer, but whatever you're doing, do it well. I mean, I think a lot of times people try to do it all at once and they get overwhelmed and they don't experience success, and then their nonprofit just kind of doesn't go anywhere. And I see that over and over again. And so I always tell folks, whatever you're doing, make sure you're doing it well. And focus on what your mission is and stick with your mission. I see a lot of organizations too that say, we feed the hungry, and then we're also doing mentoring in the schools, and then we're gonna also, let's see, what else can we do? And it's like, oh my gosh, you're all over the place, Focus on one thing and do it well. I mean, that's probably my biggest thing. But then, like I said, it takes time. So with Stephanie's organization, you hear a great story about an organization that's really making a difference in our community. And it's taken her 5 years to get to this point. 5 years of working 80, 90 plus hours a week to build these programs and to share the story that she has today. This is not something that happened overnight. So just be patient and work at it and build that organization. As far as grants, where do I even begin? There are a number of grants out there. A lot of times when I'm working with a client or an organization that has never applied for a grant before, we always, again, start small. So think about concentric circles, the target, we start small. We look at in our community, what are some grants in our community that we can apply for? There's a lot of foundations, small foundations, trusts, funding opportunities here in the Central Florida area that you can begin applying for. And it might just be a little bit of money. The Walmart grants are $2,500, but it's still a grant, right? And so start small, and then kind of work your way out. So look locally, and then maybe look throughout the state, and look throughout the Southeast, and then nationally and that sort of thing. A lot of times I talk to a nonprofit and they're like, we want this federal grant, and I'm like, well, have you ever gotten a grant before? No, you're not ready for a federal grant. It's just, you kind of have to, it's just like building your organization. Grants are the same way. I always encourage folks to start small, build your capacity, prove to funders that you can implement a grant program and a project and be successful at it, and then kind of move to the larger grants. The biggest thing with grants too that I find is a lot of folks have just an idea or a dream that they want people to fund. And I don't know, do you see this too, Georgiana? They want a house, but they don't know kind of the ins and outs or the plan of how they're going to get to that. So what I want you to do is I want you to imagine you have $50,000 that you've worked really hard to pull together, and you want to invest in the community, and you want to give this money to the community, and you want to make the biggest impact you can with that $50,000. Are you going to go with an organization that says, well, we have this idea, but we've never done this before, but it's a great idea, right? Or are you going to go with an organization that says, we've been doing this work for 7 years. This is how many people we've touched. These are how many meals we've given away. This is what our budget looks like. This is what our budget for the next 3 years looks like. This is what our board of directors are. These are our partnerships and collaborations that we have in place. We're a sustainable organization, but you're going to take us to the next level with this grant. Who are you going to give the grant to? Right? The people, the organization that was really has their act together, right? So again, that's kind of one of the things I'm always trying to coach nonprofits, to begin growing that, so that you are grant ready, so you are a very appealing organization that someone wants to fund, right? So it's kind of good. Okay.
It's good information. And I know some of you may not need the large grants. Like, you may just be doing training and education, so you may not need to get large government grants, because you can do that on a local level. So you just have to think about where you are in your nonprofit process. I wanted to ask Javier a question, since I know he's worked for-profit and nonprofit side about branding. Can you give us some tips on how a nonprofit can brand themselves?
I'm gonna say it's a little bit about what she was saying regarding what you're doing. Align what you look like with what it is you're doing. So, like, being all over the place, yeah, that doesn't really focus on what you're doing. If my nonprofit, the one I have, is focused, well, it's not if I have it, it's nonprofit focused on supporting military families, then I should stay within certain parameters, not just start picking up things on the outside. And I guess branding is one of those words, kind of like we talked about branding, outreach, or marketing. It's kind of vague, depends on who you ask and what it is. The easiest way I would put it is, what do people think of first when they think about your organization? When they think about a for-profit, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. They're not all that different. So, you look at colors that go in line with it, or a reason why there's certain colors in your logo or website. Logos don't have to be real fancy. They can be very simple. I mean, just the right letters. But messaging should really be an important thing. So if you have your mission, if you have a website, the messaging there all lines up. You're all consistent, whether your business card, whether it's a pamphlet, a handout, whether it's an event. If everything kind of lines up, then people just automatically associate. They may see a certain tagline or a certain group of colors put together, and then all of a sudden think, oh, that's that group or that company I heard about, or I saw them somewhere, and then they start getting to know you. So that hopefully you get to the point where people see just a piece of something from your organization and they automatically associate it. That's always like the big goal that corporations excel at, because it takes resources and repetition. So just branding is what they think about. You have Apple Computer, Nike, anything. What you think about first, your personal thought about it, that's basically branding, as simply as I can probably put it.
Okay, Lori, I wanted to ask you a question, kind of stay in that same area. When a nonprofit is trying to brand themselves with media, they kind of need a hook.
Right.
So can we talk about, how that works with events that they're doing, whether it's a celebrity event or giving away a big prize?
Right, yes. Absolutely, and Javier is right. Branding is so important, consistency is important, and you'll get to a point where you think, oh my gosh, we've just done this over and over and over and over again. People are probably getting sick of this, but not really, because frequency is what sells. And there are people that come in and out of interest in what you're doing, and so you're probably reaching new people who now have a need for whatever it is that you're doing. So consistency is great. In addition to that, having a hook is really important. And events work great. I'll give you an example of something that just came across my desk recently. It's an organization called New Hope for Kids. You probably are familiar with New Hope for Kids.
Yeah, I love them.
It's a great organization. Well, a dear friend of mine is overseeing that organization now, and she used to work with us. She used to work at Clear Channel. Hello? Okay. So one of the things that she's doing for an event that is coming up for her right now is she found somebody who had a motorcycle that is painted with Alice Cooper's $1 Billion Baby album cover. And Alice Cooper is doing a concert in Orlando coming up. So what she has gotten that motorcycle donated to New Hope for Kids. They're auctioning it off just before the concert happens. So that's a hook for raising some great money. Another idea is tying in with a celebrity. Now that can have a lot of great value. It can also be a little bit dangerous in case something happens with that celebrity where they turn bad. You know, we've all heard stories about that. But we have celebrities at our radio station, and of course there are celebrities at television stations. There's celebrities all over the place. For example, Jim Phillips, who works for Real Radio, many years ago, the Mustard Seed went to him and told their story about what they were doing. And now for, I don't know how many years, it's been maybe 20 years that Jim Phillips has been talking about the Mustard Seed. And they have grown from working out of a garage to, you know, this great big company. So that's an example. Another example is we've got a radio station, WJRR Rock Station, which, by the way, is promoting this $1 Billion Baby giveaway in a big way because they tied in with the concert, the Alice Cooper concert. But we have a radio personality that's on in the middle of the day, Mel Taylor, and she started her own 501c3. It's called Mel's Bad Girls Club. So she helps, her thing is she helps other nonprofits. And because she has a voice on the radio, she can, you know, promote all these different things that are going on. Now, there's only a certain amount of celebrities, there's only a certain amount of radio personalities, so it's, you know, might be a challenge to find someone like that. But think that way, and also look at people that are on your board, or look at other CEOs that you would like to have on your board. And you probably already know this, but find out where, you know, where their hearts are, what their passions are, and then those people can help you make just the right connections. For example, there might be somebody that has a heart for something that you're doing, and they're a big advertiser in the community. Well, maybe you could connect with them and have them help you by giving just a piece of their advertising. Whether it's a TV ad and it's just a little something that's written on, you know, on the bottom of the screen, or if it's a radio ad and they put what we call a tag at the end of it. Or maybe they have a facility and they'd let you utilize their facility at no charge, so you can have your events there and not have to pay for it. But there are great advantages to tying in with other people that way.
Thanks for sharing that. Georgiana, I want to ask you, since you've been on both sides as a grant reviewer and a grant writer, can you share a few tips for new grant writers in the room?
Okay, a good example would be to put yourself in the shoes of the, you know, grant maker, and look at the criteria of how they're gonna grade your application to them. And say to yourself, you know, did I really answer, you know, this question fully? You know, could I have, you know, added additional information? Could I show how I'm gonna be accountable for the funds that they're gonna give me? And that's a big piece of it. And I think that once you see, you know, how you're looked at, then you're able to, you know, make yourself better. You're able to explain your program better. You're able to explain the impact that you're making in the community by having your program. That's one of the key things. If you can't show that impact that you're gonna make, that difference that you make, then how are they gonna fund you? Why would they wanna fund you? I mean, that's very important. I mean, you know, without showing that, then, you know, your application isn't strong. It just isn't, you know. And so you have to think of some examples. You can put in like a success story of how you've made a difference, you know, depending on the program. You can also, if you have written testimonies that people send in from time to time, keep those. You know, if someone sends you an email and, you know, they tell you how you've made a difference, you know, by offering the program that you offer, keep that, use that as part of your, you know, your resources that you know, send out, you know, all of that ties in with, you know, showing the difference that you're making. You know? So, and as well as, let's see, I think another part of it is as well, just knowing that you really set out to do what you said you're gonna do. Okay, so if you said you're gonna do a certain program and deliver certain products or services, you have to do it. I mean, you are held accountable to whatever you say that you're gonna do. And that's only fair. I mean, if, again, put yourself in their shoes, and if you were the one giving out that money, wouldn't you want that person to be held accountable for that? I mean, you worked hard for that money. Wouldn't you want those resources spent appropriately? Wouldn't you want them to be good stewards of that funds? So you just have to, keep that in mind always with anything that you do, and that making sure that you're good stewards of whatever funds that you get, and that you deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on.
Very good. Well, since you're on that same story, I would like for you to share a success story as a grant writer or a fundraiser, since you're on both sides of that as well.
Okay.
And then I would also like Julie to share a success story.
Okay. In terms of a success story, it's just as a grant writer, it's always so rewarding when programs are funded, or when you know that you're making a difference. And for me, one particular example is that I helped to write a federal grant, 21st Century Learning Grant for Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida. And part of it again, I love the creativity of it, and we were able to write in that they would be given some science programming piece to what they were already doing, and it was a matter of making some contacting Kennedy Space Center, NASA, and finding out how we could partner with their educational program, and just arranging for field trips to take the kids there and all of that. And it was very rewarding in that, they agreed to partner with Boys and Girls Club to do that. And again, you don't know unless you ask. I mean, you have to talk with people. You have to let them know about your programs and what you're doing. Okay, and the difference that you're trying to make. I mean, it all starts with a conversation. It really does. Again, just seeing that those kids have an opportunity to do something that they would have never had an opportunity to do before. I mean, it's just amazing that what you do can make a difference.
So a success story. There's so many. It's hard. It's hard
Give
to
us
pick.
3.
Okay. I'm just going to piggyback on a little bit about what Georgiana was talking about with just how to write your proposal in a way. One of the things I always encourage folks to do is paint a picture. When Stephanie was talking about her program, couldn't you visualize what she was doing? Paint a picture. Talk about what you're doing, what it looks like, so they can almost see in their mind's eye what it is that you're doing. She does a great job at describing what their programs are doing and how they're doing them. The other thing in your proposals, again, is they want to know details. So not only, get their attention about what you're doing, but include, and I always say nickels, numbers, and noses. Include, what the dollar amount is. We know that she buys food at 18 cents a pound, and she's buying this many pounds of food, right? We know how many people she's impacted. We know that 17 men and 2 women are no longer homeless because they've gotten what they've needed from her program. So be sure to keep track of numbers as you're doing your work so that you can show your impact. Okay, so think about what you're doing and begin collecting that information as you go along. A lot of times I talk to an organization, they're like, well, how many volunteers do you have, or how many volunteer hours? I don't know. They're just not keeping track of that information. And that's really important for a funder to know exactly what impact you're having. And then the accountability piece is really important, like Georgiana was saying. As a funder, if I have someone who says, we're buying workbooks for kids, and then you turn in receipts and you've purchased computers, You bought those computers. You're giving me my money back because you said you were buying workbooks, so now your organization is in the hole. And that's where I become the mean grant maker. But the mean grant lady. But it is, accountability is so important. If we give you money for a specific purpose or project and it's not used in the way that you said it was going to be used, you will be paying that money back somehow. And it's usually not very pretty. So just, keep it above the board, do what you say you're going to do. Success stories. I've worked with an organization, I'll do one personal and one professional. I worked with an organization out in Portland, Oregon, who again worked for 5 years to just even open their doors. Working on building collaboration, working on raising funds from different streams. Everybody's like, when are the grants gonna come? When are the grants? And I'm just like, be patient, just be patient. They opened their doors July 2013. Probably a few months before that, because now they were grant ready. They have everything in place. They're opening their doors. We brought in almost $1 million of grants that year, and it was just really exciting to see. They're in a place now, a year and a half later, where their partners are helping them renovate new space because they're already busting in the seams where they are almost a year later. So it's exciting to see the growth of that organization, but it also is a good story because they had such a strong foundation before they even opened their doors. And so they've just had tremendous community support, tremendous response to their services. So it's been exciting to be a part of that on the other side of the country. Professionally, there's been a number of programs that I've helped get started that they're my babies, and I'm excited about them. One of the ones here at the City of Orlando is the Orlando Cares program. And we had gotten, there's a lot of grants that come across my desk. There was this grant from the Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Rockefeller Foundation. They were putting their money together and they wanted to grow volunteerism in cities. And it wasn't just, pull 20 volunteers together. It's like, pull thousands of volunteers together for an effort. And so, I took it up the chain and I'm like, really need to apply for this. This would be really great. And it was like, no, that's not a good idea. So that passed, we missed that deadline. Then they put the announcement out again, like 6 months later. And I was like, we really need to apply for this grant. I really feel like it would be great for Mayor Dyer. I feel, like this is really answering President Obama's call for citizens to be involved in their communities, and so forth. So we got the go-ahead, the yes, 3 days before the deadline. And it was on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and we had our major event coming up on Saturday, which is where we bring in different 400 citizens for an annual conference. So we wrote for 4 days, and we submitted at 4:59. I literally we called just to make sure the email went through, and we got the grant. And probably one of my favorite parts is when my boss went to New York City to receive the grant award at Gracie Mansion with Mayor Bloomberg, and he said it was one of their top proposals. Yeah. I was like, and it has grown into a, $1.5 million project that is just. It's my baby. I'm so proud of it. We're making a difference. It's focusing on education from literally preschool age all the way getting kids ready for college. So there's different projects that residents can be involved in, even in an hour a week, where they are just helping kids get on level and make sure their education is a priority, and that they're not falling behind. So it's been exciting to be a part of that. So.
Good to hear. Stephanie, that's what we're excited for. Good. So next time you see the mayor looking good, that was Julie that did that for us. Stephanie, I wanted to ask, this 2014, you've been on local news, national news. I mean, how did that happen? And I was at your event a few months ago, when one of the news reporters said that, you know, all of your toys were stolen one year. I want you to share about that story and tell us how the news has made a difference with your nonprofit.
Thank you. Scott Maxwell has been an absolute amazing supporter of One Heart, but how that happened is our trailer ended up it was stolen with Christmas presents for over 500 children. And we had $5,000 in gift cards that were in there also, and 12,000 diapers and many other things. Somebody cut through 2 locks, 2 different gates to get to this trailer. And it wasn't just targeted at my trailer, they took 12 straight down the street. So when that happened, when I drove up to get the trailer because we were heading to the event to go store these presents that the event was happening the following week. And I drove up and my trailer was gone. So I called my husband and said, "Where's the trailer? Do you know where the trailer is?" And he said, "I have no idea." And I tell you, at that moment, I hung up the phone and I was angry. You know, I was angry because somebody stole my trailer. And what I did instead is I prayed and picked up the telephone and called somebody else and said, "Just pray with me, please." And then we hung up, and because I didn't want to stay bitter, I knew that if I stayed angry, I wasn't going to be able to help. I couldn't find a solution, right? Because then I was staying in all that anger. So I called a board member. They called a few other people. Channel 2 was there within 4 hours, but Scott Maxwell was there in that first hour, and that was my first time meeting Scott Maxwell. And he sat down with me, and at that time we were in like 8 different storage units. We did not have our home base. We were running out of anybody that would give us just a little bit of space. We would take that for, you know, for our resources. And anyway, so now here it is, all of our stuff has been stolen, and we quickly needed to get that information out into the community. So now we were on, it wasn't crisis mode, now it was, let's get into the solution, right? I alone can't do it, we together can. And with Scott Maxwell, Channel 2, Channel 6, Channel 9, Channel 35, we had 6 different news channels that came. And I also had just started oral chemo that week. And the reason I say that also is because it doesn't matter what we're walking through, right? We can still reach outside of ourselves to be able to keep helping other people with the help of each other. And so with that being said, we had 6 different news channels that night and the next morning that were talking about what happened. And within 5 days, we had over $22,000 that came in. We had different accounts that were set up at different banks. That money was still coming in after the fact. We were able to help not 500 children with Christmas presents. We were able to help 1,502 children with Christmas presents. And as a result of that, being able to go back and thanking the donors, being able to go back and thank as many people as you can with pictures and with stories and, you know, testimonies. That's how more people come in and start partnering with us. And now, Aretha, let me ask something. My mom wanted to ask a question. Is there a different time for questions?
Yes.
Okay, hang tight just for a minute, Mom. I think along with that is that each time we have something that's going on, whether it's an event, whether it's, you know, something that really could be crisis mode, reaching out and letting somebody know this is what's happening. Every event that we do, I put something through to each one of the news channels. I email it into the desk, I make a phone call, I do it myself because I want to make sure that with my passion for what I'm doing, I want to make sure that that's getting to the right, you know, to the right hands. So just about every event that we have, we've got Orlando Sentinel that will put something somewhere, either in the front page or in the College Park, because we're in College Park, so they'll put it in the College Park Forum. We reach out to the Southwest Bulletin, Lifestyle Magazine. I think in the last 2 years, we've had 22 articles written and been in 8 magazines, and then the Lady Godiva Award, which was really huge also. So there were 6,018 women that were nominated, and 3 of us won $10,000 for our charity and got to go up to New York, and now we've been that face and that name for Godiva, like Godiva chocolate. And so it's been amazing, and I fly out after this to go back up and do some more speaking for them.
Awesome, thanks for sharing that. Yes, that deserves an applause. Yes. I know many of you have questions, so if you write down your questions and pass them to the end, we will get to you, but we're gonna take a 10-minute break, and Mark can give out some more door prizes in the meantime, and then we'll come back and finish up for our final words. Are you enjoying this? Questions from the panel. So you're gonna be put on the spot.
Okay.
Peg, you said you had a question you wanted to come up and ask?
Stephanie forgot to tell me that within 24 hours after the theft of her trailer, she had a trailer donated to her.
Okay, she said Stephanie forgot to let you know that within 24 hours she had another trailer donated to her. So that's a blessing. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start asking the questions. Some of them are specifically for different people, and then some of them are just questions in general. This question is for Stephanie, probably. It doesn't say it, but I imagine. It says,
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much.
what does One Heart do for the children?
We do a lot for the children. I guess with that question, we are not only feeding the children, but we feed, clothe, and mentor families. So we've got quite a few students or children that come in of all ages. Some of them come in after school, and they come in, they can do their homework right there, they can get fed right there, they're in a safe place right there. Parents come in and pick them up, and now we've got about 12, 13 children right now, middle school and elementary, that walk right over to us because we're so close to the 2 schools. Other than that, when we are feeding the families and mentoring the families, it looks different for each and every family. It might be getting a telephone call at 10 o'clock at night saying, nobody's home and I'm home alone, and they have my card from somewhere. And me being able to get just make that correct phone call and seeking help for that child. So we are, again, feeding, clothing, mentoring children in many, many different ways. I think starting with that feeding that belly so that they have proper nutrition so that they can grow and learn.
Excellent. All right, someone has a question. I think this is for me. It says, I don't have a 501c3, but would like to know what are the requirements. So I will go through them, and you can either see me or Demetrius in the back, Demetrius Crane. The requirements for getting your 501c3 is first you have to have a board of directors. It has to be an odd number, 3, 5, 15, 17. The majority cannot be family. So, for example, if you and a cousin were on the board, you would have to have 3 other people who aren't related to you. You want to find people who are qualified to do the work to help your organization stay healthy financially. You have to first incorporate on the state level. Then you get your EIN. And in the meantime, while you're incorporating on the state level, you can create your bylaws. And the final step would be to complete the application for 501c3 on the federal level, which you can find on the IRS website, irs.gov. But if you look at it and if you're overwhelmed, there's many professionals, like I said, Demetrius in the back, that can help you with that process. But it is, if you, I don't know, I could say it's easy to do because I've been doing it since 1999, and there's some people who, will read it and understand it, but if it's something you don't understand, definitely get an expert to help you with it, okay? All right, somebody has a question. I guess it's for the grant writers. Do we pay the grant writers for the grant we get?
Okay, this is always a tough question to answer. Okay, any particular funder that you go to will not want you to use any parts of the grant funding to pay the grant writer. I mean, that has to come out of your operational budget. That's just how it is. And from an ethical standpoint, from the grant writer, I mean, we still put in the time to, you know, put your grant together to state the best case possible that we can to try to get you funding, but we cannot guarantee 100% that you'll get the funding. We just can't. It's so many different factors that, you know, depend on whether or not you get the grant. I mean, it's really beyond our control. The only thing within our control is just to write the best case of support that we can, that showcases your program and the services that you offer.
That's good. Julie, you wanted to add something to that, or no?
No, I'll just piggyback on that. There's times when folks say, well, if we get the grant, we'll pay you, right? And no, I mean, that would be like saying, if I like my haircut, then I'll pay for it, right? Like, it's, you know, it's like, you can't do that, you know? So, so like Georgiana said, we do put in the time and the effort, so yes, that would be a requirement.
She asked the normal fee. What's the normal fee for a grant writer?
There's a wide range.
Yeah, there's a wide, they could charge you, you know, whatever. Some could be $35 an hour, $75, $100, it depends. And it also depends on the grant too. If they're writing a government grant that's gonna take 100 pages to do, then you might end up paying thousands of dollars rather than a local grant that is an application, which would take them 30 minutes to do. So
Yeah, because just to answer that as well, grants can range anywhere from hours from between 5 hours, depending if it's like a little small application versus if it's a government grant, to over 200 hours. Yes, government grants are heavily time intensive and require lots and lots of just different things. So, and again, tying it back to your grant readiness. You know, do you have everything that you need in place, or is the grant writer going to have to, you know, help you put things in place in order to submit the grant as well? So you have to look at that too. Grant writing, as Aretha and Julie said, it ranges anywhere from, on the low end, $30 an hour, to on the high end, I know some people that charge $150 an hour. Again, you have to do your research. You have to know, you know, their background. Let them give you references. Again, check to see if they're registered. All grant professionals should be registered with the Florida State of Agriculture Department as a certified fundraising consultant if they're writing grants. So, you know, you need to do your homework, and I'm going to put Cynthia Jackson on the spot here because she came up to me privately. And she had said that, you know, she had paid someone to write a grant for her and the person, you know, didn't do it or something. And that should never happen. I mean, any grant writing professional would not do that, you know. So you really do have to do your background and research and, you know, make sure that doesn't happen to you. And I hate to hear stories like that because, I mean, it really doesn't, you know, do us justice, you know, but... You know, just do your homework, and, you know, it all depends on the project and the task that you want them to do and the amount of time that it takes. And anyone should be able to give you a quote beforehand after looking at what you need done to be able to tell you a range. It shouldn't be any type of surprise to you where, you know, someone gives you, you know, some big bill after the fact or anything like that. I mean, you really should know going in, you know, what it's going to cost.
Good. I'll let any one of you answer this question. It says, what are the expectations and the importance of board members?
Okay, since I have the mic, I'll start with answering that. Board members are very important to your organizations, and they actually should be helping you do the fundraising. They should be out there just as you are, telling people, the community, about what you do. They should be providing you with contacts and just helping you get your foot in the door with meeting people that can help further your program or further the services that you provide. And if they don't know that, there are so many resources in the community that can help train your board members, that can help them with the responsibilities of what they're supposed to be doing. But they're extremely important, and if you're not utilizing your board members, you need to start to do that.
Go ahead, Stephanie, have something to add, and if anybody else want to add to that?
I think that's a very, very important question. When I first started the 501c3, I didn't really know which direction I was going to be going in. I just knew I wanted to help people. And so I picked a very silent board. And with that, I do not recommend anybody to do that. Part of it, I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do, how to do, when to do. And what I found is that I couldn't grow because it was, it was all about me. And I wasn't looking at it that way. I didn't go into it with that intention. But I just didn't know. So as we started, as I knew that, I needed to either stop what I was doing or needed to change some things. And that's when, in changing things, being able to get with Aretha and some other people, and they helped me to get a board. And we've got a very strong board, and in the last 3 years, and again, that's why now so many things have changed. But without a board, without a working board, not a silent board, without a working board, I think that's the important part.
That's good. Julie, Javier? Okay.
Yeah, I'll speak personally on that quickly. My military initiative it's a tough sell when I meet people for the first time, especially people in the military, veterans, military spouses. I'm a civilian. I wouldn't trust me. Because this is like my first sale. It's not about money. It's not about the magazine or the website. It's, oh, you served? No. So it was actually a passion project that became what it became, but my board helped me get legitimacy. I currently have 3 board members, including myself, but 2 of them are veterans and of a diverse group. So that could be a good reason to have a board. It's like you're trying to sell me something and you don't even use your own product, so to speak. So there's a lot of reasons for a board, and they'll hold you accountable. So that's just one idea.
And this is his magazine. It's a very, very nice magazine, by the way. Very nice, yes. Okay, somebody else want to add to that? Go ahead, Lori.
There's a website you can go to. It's called Cone. The company's called Cone Communications, and it's conecom.com. So CONECOMM.com. And there's lots of resources on there, but one that I just happened to stumble across this morning was tips on how to communicate with CEOs effectively. So that might come in handy when CONE, C-O-N-E, COMM, C-O-M-M, stands for communications.com. And you noodle around the website. There's tons of information on that website about how to partner with other businesses, the top trends, like they have the top 10 trends of 2014, so you can see what's going on in the nonprofit world. There's lots of specific research about how many people will buy a particular product because it's tied in with a nonprofit organization. It's a wealth of information. It was a gem to find, wasn't it?
Yeah. So did everybody get that website? She said cone, like an ice cream cone, CONECOMM.com. Very good website. Okay, this question is, how can another nonprofit partner with a nonprofit like Stephanie's to be able to purchase and distribute food to family, but they're in the process of getting their own 501c3? And it's a 2-part question. So, let me just go ahead and read the second part. Is there any organization or nonprofit that can assist another potential nonprofit with the startup and state and federal fees to become a nonprofit? So how can another organization partner with an organization like Stephanie to be able to purchase food for families while they're in the process of getting their 501c3?
That could be a very tricky question. First, with the 2 entities meeting, to be able to talk about what the goals are, It's not that it's impossible, although with the paperwork and with the integrity of what we do, when we sign the contract with Second Harvest or different food banks, we say we are going to, One Heart for Women and Children, we will be the ones that will be distributing the food. We get food from many different places, so there's other things that are, that are possible, such as reaching out to churches and reaching out to other entities to collect food so that we can go out and together, One Heart for Women and Children and another agency or another circle of friends or another nonprofit organization, so that we can go out and help make a difference in the community. And we've done that with, I think, 23 different groups in the last 3 years. But again, it's two entities going into it with the same mission, with the same, we've got the same ideas, and we're not walking outside of what our main focus is.
Okay, thank you for that. So the second part of the question is there any organizations that assist another potential nonprofit with the startup of their fees to become a nonprofit? I don't know of any. Does anybody in here know of any? You do know of one?
Well, not necessarily.
Well, we were, before we received our 501c3 status, we were considering, we were in the process of establishing a fiscal sponsorship with one of our partners. So they can, if they have the same mission that you do, you can come under them temporarily with this contract. It's basically a contract. They oversee you, and it depends on how it is written. So you want legal advice, but if you search material on fiscal sponsorship, you can get a lot of information on it, and basically ride with them and operate with them until you can get your own established and then separate. But all that needs to be written up very clearly about who does what and who oversees the money, who is handling. So all that is written out and it's legal, and it is IRS oversight as well. So that's the way that we were going to do it. But we received our 501c3 just the day before we resigned. We were going to be signing our fiscal sponsorship.
Okay. So basically, they were using someone else's 501c3 until they got theirs, and like you said, that could be tricky. I know horror stories, so you just get it all in writing. Someone else had their hand up. Yes, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yes.
Before we met you, Aretha, we were on the line tour, which is a
Oh,
tour
yeah.
supporting the organization, and we had the. I know it's all. I know. But we had all the privileges of a regular nonprofit, which were supporting it.
Okay. So the next question says, I've heard that foundations want audited financials. Is that true? And do you know of any organizations that offer that service for a reasonable fee? I've heard it costs thousands of dollars to get audited, and I would need a grant just to afford that. It's true. I would say on when you're trying for major dollars, they want audited financial reports. And it does cost a lot of money. It costs, I know 2 of my colleagues just had audited financial reports, and it was about $6,000 with a firm. So that's usually from major donors. When I say major donor, I'm talking about you're asking for $500,000 or more. That's when you get to that level. Otherwise, they just need to see your 990, and that's not an audited financial report. Okay. Next question. I've heard the fee scale. I don't know. There's another part to that. Is there a way or how to pay yourself a salary or any guidelines? So I guess being a nonprofit, how do you decide to pay yourself? Is there any guidelines? I have something to say about that if you guys want to piggyback. When you first start, sometimes you can't pay yourself, like Stephanie. Sometimes you can't pay yourself. When you get to the point where you can pay yourself, then there are some guidelines. You can go to salary.com. Basically, a nonprofit can operate just like a for-profit. Your salary can be the same as a CEO of any business, and they go based on whether you have a bachelor's or master's degree or 10 years equivalent experience, you should be making $56,000 or whatever. So that, if you go to salary.com and this, you can just Google salary scales. It's the same as, you know, any other business, except that you got to have that money coming in. So that's pretty much the difference. Anybody want to add to that?
That can run you into a little bit of trouble if your entire salary is taking up a lot of your budget though, because I know for funders, you know, when we're looking at, you know, funding different organizations, usually we look at salary, benefits, and administrative costs to be no more than 25% of the budget. So you want to make sure that you're staying within, you know, some of those guidelines.
Very good. This next question is, how do you get your name off of a 501c3 if the other person is a crook? Wow. Well, I would say this. On this, there's two different levels. You got the state level, where every year you have to pay to stay incorporated, and at that point you can change your board of directors' names and addresses. On the federal level, the IRS, they don't keep in touch. So if you really want to get your name off that paperwork, you have to write them a letter. And it has to be on the articles of incorporation, and you have to send them a copy showing that your name has been removed from it. Otherwise, it's public notice and it'll be there. So, hope that helped. Okay, next question for Julie. Do they still have grants for target areas for property? I guess does the city have any grants for target area for properties?
No. No. With properties, you know, like I said, with the one property that I spoke of, it's a, you know, limited use contract, you know, that the city has with the neighborhood organization actually, to use this property for the garden specifically for a short period of time. Eventually the city will probably develop that piece of property and we need to take it back over. But for this time being, because it is sitting vacant, they're allowed to use it. So I'm not sure, can you repeat the question?
Basically, they want to know if there's
Do
any
we give
property.
grants for properties?
Yeah.
I mean, the city of Orlando does not have extra property that's sitting vacant that we can give to organizations right now. But like I said, that doesn't mean other municipalities don't. So, you know, you look at Orange County and I giving up my Orlando card because I don't know how many municipalities are in Orange County right now. But I think we're around 13, 14 different city governments within Orange County. So you could go to those different city governments and ask them as well. You know, the city of Orlando is a very small I don't want to say small, but designated area within Orange County. So even though you have an Orlando address, doesn't mean you're in the city of Orlando. City of Orlando has very specific city limits, but you also have City of Windermere, City of Winter Park, City of, you know, yes, Ocoee, and that sort of thing. So you could go to those different municipalities. You could go to Orange County as well and find out, you know, if there are some properties available that they would be willing to partner with you to provide your services out of those locations.
Excellent. Here's a question. What are some ways to ensure that you're accomplishing your mission statement and your goals? Anybody can answer that. What are some ways to ensure that you're accomplishing your mission statement and your goals?
I'll say something about that. I was just commenting, I need to start incorporating tracking something. Number of workshops, number of events, number of people touched. As she mentioned before, that's something that needs to start doing based on whatever your organization is, what the service is, what the group you're trying to reach out to, and I just say start tracking something, and I'm kind of speaking it to myself as well. And then from there, you'll get a better idea based on what maybe the questions that people ask you, or if you're going for a grant, what are the requirements on it, and then it may kind of set off a light bulb, say, oh, wait a minute, I never thought about tracking this. Like maybe I tracked how many people went, but I didn't track how many of those events I did. and you just may wanna start doing that kind of thing.
And to tie on to what Javier said, that tracking of something should really be tracking of outcomes of the programs and the services that you provide. That's very important in terms of accountability, in terms of grants, in terms of marketing. I mean, across the whole, realm of things. You need to know what difference you're making, and by tracking outcomes, you're able to quantify that.
Very good, very good. Here's another question. How do you handle opposition or legal disputes? That's easy. Get a lawyer. I mean, it's good. This piggybacks on this next question about what are some key professionals you need for a successful nonprofit. It would be good to have an attorney be on your board. And I know everybody in this room knows an attorney that knows an attorney that knows an attorney, where they want to volunteer their time. And a lot of their time is not coming to the meetings, or it just could be a simple phone call, them being an advisor. But any kind of legal dispute, get an attorney. That's what they specialize in. That's just simple. But some other key professionals you need on your board, it just depends on your board. If you have a board that you're helping children, you want to have people who specialize in that, have a degree in education, childhood behavior, or something like that. But I mean, it just depends on your nonprofit organization, and you guys can add something to that.
One of the things I tell a lot of organizations that I talk to is, and I think is an untapped resource, because I went through it and no one ever contacted me. I don't know if my feelings hurt or anything, but no, I'm joking. Through the Orlando Chamber of Commerce has Leadership Orlando, and that is where a lot of professionals go through leadership development training. And these are people who represent banks, attorney firms, private industry, nonprofit organizations, that sort of thing. And one of the parts of Leadership Orlando is they train us on how to be good board members. So every session they publicize the roster of people who are going through Leadership Orlando. And I always tell organizations, I'm like, look through that. That is like prime picking. If you are leaders in our community who care about our community, who would make excellent board members. So, it lists their associations, as far as their affiliation, where their business, they do their business or their background. But it's a really great resource. It includes their phone numbers, their emails, all of that. So kind of go to Orlando Inc. or Google or Leadership Orlando and look at some of those alumni rosters and find some good board members. But I always recommend that you have an attorney on your board.
Okay, this next question, they say, okay, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add to that too. Piggybacking on what Julie said, with an accountant, also a banker or a lawyer. I mean, those are three good areas to have as expertise on your boards.
I'd like to add something to that too. These people are volunteering their time, and when you're gathering who's going to be on your board, and you're gathering your volunteers, you want them to be excited about being a part of this. And so for somebody that does a fair amount of volunteering, I get more excited about being a part of an organization that is really good about networking and helping, like whoever is sort of in charge of that is connecting people, knowing what the needs are of that person that is volunteering their time, or their board member. What are their needs? What's important to them? And keeping mindful of that, so when you meet somebody, you can make that connection to help fulfill that need. So it's a benefit to them. A win-win is always great, especially when people are volunteering and they're not getting paid for their time.
One other thing that made me think of something. If you do need board members, you can contact the Rollins College Philanthropy Nonprofit League. And they can take your information, and as they have professionals there that want to get involved in the community, they can give them your organization's name. So that's a resource that you can use to help.
Right, good.
I know, we're coming up with ideas, sorry.
Oh,
another great
That's
resource.
what ideas, that's what
Yes.
it's about. Go ahead.
Another great resource is the University of Central Florida College nonprofit management. Is it the Center for Nonprofit Management? And every year, their graduate students take on several nonprofits and actually work with that nonprofit to build their capacity. That could be including recruiting board members, training board members, writing grants, that sort of thing, looking at your finances, kind of pulling together and building the capacity of your nonprofit. It's free. It's kind of, they take you on as a project over the semester, so it's a really great opportunity for a young nonprofit to kind of, get some legs. So.
Good stuff. That's good. Someone says, our mission is to empower and educate women through the Word of God, career services, financial services, and spiritual wellness. What kind of services do I have to offer to turn my Christian women's group into a nonprofit? That's kind of a question you might have to answer. You guys can pick it back up on that. What kind of services do I have to offer to turn my Christian women's group into a nonprofit? I am not sure, but you can be a nonprofit as long as you're doing something charitable, educational, or religious. So you're already, able to be a nonprofit. I'm not sure. Amy, who wrote this question? Because I don't want. Okay. I always tell people, I get that question a lot now that I hear you saying it, because people want to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I always tell people to start doing what you actually can do. Because if you want to eventually have a transition home, but you don't have the capacity to do that right now, but you can offer free tutoring or a GED class because the church is going to let you use their space for free, then start there. So start where you actually can. Do what you actually can do. That's where you start. And then it'll grow on its own. It always does. So.
We have a church that lets us use it now, so that's why I was like, how can we actually get started to where I'm not like breaking laws or doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing, just.
No, I don't understand that part.
I'm trying to figure out, like, how can we get started? Just like,
Okay.
what do I have to do the right way for
Do you,
us to get like set up?
do you have your 501c3? Have you applied for it? Okay. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to write down pretty much all things with your mission statement and your goals, what you plan to do, who you plan to help, basically the who, what, where, when, and how. That's where you start. And why is very important, because when you write down why, that'll always answer the rest of the questions. And then you can start the process of getting your board together, then going ahead and getting your 501c3.
Okay, and to tie into what Aretha just said with the why part of it, definitely look at the needs. You do some type of needs assessment so that you know what those needs are and what you want to do, what type of services.
Here's a quick idea. I'm not sure if this is what you're going for, but if you want like a specific something to do, start a group and have it be focused on, say, financial literacy, personal finance. Because that's a hot topic right now, even amongst my audience, military, the whole United States at this point, pretty much the whole world. So start with something, even if you're going to talk about credit card basics. And then as you're having this group together, ask the questions, what are the other problems? Oh, we're trying to figure out about savings. Oh, well, we're not sure how to choose a bank or something. And then you're going to start getting a lot of other ideas for other topics. So just start with, call it a workshop, call it whatever you want, and then you'll have that to show when you finally get to the point to go for the nonprofit, because they're going to ask you, what activities do you have? You're not breaking any laws by just getting together and talking about a problem you have in common with a group of people.
Okay.
If
I would
that helps.
say stick with what you're passionate about, because don't go with, the trend.
Well, financial was a part of it, but that's why I'm like, just how to get everything actually going. Because there's just certain things I want to do, that's it. I don't want to do 20, 30 different things.
I think you need a consultation. We'll get with you afterwards. We'll get with you afterwards, okay? Yes, okay.
And
I'll
also
give
one
you a
of the-
free consultation too.
You're so awesome. One of the ways you can determine kind of what the needs are in your community as well, is to reach out with the people who are serving. And so one of the things I think is great is that we have like the 211 here in Central Florida, and that's the information line, information and referral line that individuals can call and get services. Like if they're having trouble paying their rent, they need food, well, you know, whatever their needs are. They can call that number and get referrals to organizations such as One Heart for Women and Children. And, but you can also talk to them and find out and get their annual report and find out what were their highest numbers of calls for. What were people, you know, what was the biggest need in our community? You know, because then when you're going out and you're talking to people who, you know, you want to support, you can say, did you know that the 211 number received, you know, 63,000 calls for this? And this is how we're, you know, this is a need in our community, and this is what our nonprofit is going to address. You know, so you need to demonstrate a need, but 211 publishes an annual report, gives you numbers of calls, women, men, you know, and what the issues were, what their age brackets were, you know, and that sort of thing. So it's a great way of identifying needs in our community rather than going, I don't know, what do you want to do? You know, I mean, you know, if there's kind of a number of different things you want to address, maybe look at what the top needs are in our community.
Very good. One question, I think this is for Lori. What is a fair price to pay for a paid PSA? For Lori. What is the fair price to pay for a paid PSA?
Well, that's a very
Tell us what a
broad,
PSA is, because some people still don't know.
public service announcement. It's like a commercial, only it's for a nonprofit organization. And that's a very broad question because it depends on where the PSA is airing. It's usually based on the amount of listeners that a radio station has. So the more listeners that a radio station has, the higher the cost is going to be to run a spot, a PSA or a commercial. The fewer listeners they have, the least expensive it's going to be. Same with the television station. It depends on the program in which the PSA is going to air, you know, what the ratings are for that program, or, you know, a lot of times people will not ask for a specific place for it to air, and it's, you know, sort of a broad range. You can get a lower average on a cost, and the costs go up and down based on ratings and so forth. So I know that doesn't really answer your question, but but I would say that there are assets where you can get a radio spot for as low as $10. And then it can go up as high as 500. So, I mean, I know that's a pretty broad range, but what you need to do is zero in on the type of person that you'd like to reach, and then that will help you choose the station or the program that you'd like it to air on.
I know that Super Channel 55 has spots right now for $10. So that's a steal. Super Channel 55.
That's our one website out there that may help answer some questions or give background. There's a website called adcouncil.org. That's where I go to try to find PSAs to put into the magazine. So if you want to see how other organizations are trying to get exposure via PSA, you can go in there and check it out. It's adcouncil.org. So like there, I typically go and find like an organization that has like a stop texting and driving ad or campaign. So it may not just be print, they'll have audio, video, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to go in there and get a little more of an idea what a PSA is or one source. So.
Yeah, those are usually done on a volunteer basis by big advertising agencies. They take on these nonprofits as you know, their project, their gratis project, and so those are usually really good examples.
Okay, this is the last question, and then there's a comment. What all can you put on your 501c3 for a church nonprofit? And I can answer that. You can do anything charitable, educational, religious. So I'm not sure if you're saying, can you start a school or can you start anything like that? Who wrote that question? Anybody want to share? Yes. What else? Were you thinking about adding other activities?
We don't have it, we don't have our 501 yet, so we just trying to figure out what we can add on it, and should we do it in the ministry name, or should we do it in our outreach name,
Okay.
for school?
Okay.
You know,
I know where you're going. I think a church should stay a church, and if you want to do something else, especially if you want to get grants, you should have a separate 501c3 that doesn't say we are the Church of God in Christ, CDC. So you should have something separate, because you know a lot of churches can't get 501c3s because you know the grantors are saying you already get tithes and offerings every week. So if you want to do something separate, it should be a separate 501c3. Okay, this last one is a comment from Pastor Mike Volat. Thank you. I know that name. I'm on the radio every Monday at 10, and I have a 19-passenger bus. Okay, you want to read this? We feed every Monday and want to start a computer class for anybody that wants to come. Was that a comment or a question?
Well, how
Okay.
can I get started and how can I use that to better with what we're trying to do here? I have a 501c3.
Okay.
So I want to see what can I do to take that and do better with it than what I'm doing.
I like that bus idea. Maybe you can get one of these grant writers, and they could give you some ideas, because that bus thing is that's a good one. So you already have the tool. So you remember that bus, the riding the bus, the school bus that do the tutoring? I don't know, just an idea. So, okay, you had a question? You want to come up? What's going on? I can't read lips. Come on up.
No, I'm saying I got a computer instructor.
Okay, I come on up here. Okay, see, everything you need, ideas, resources, and connections. Somebody left this or dropped this. Does this belong to anybody? It's a cord. Okay, excellent. We got who this belongs to. Can you pass this in the back? Okay. Can you get the microphone and make the announcement? Get the microphone, because you're still trying to get me to read your lips. You're live.
Hi, I'm Mark Chambers. I have a company called Tech Teach. And right now, as a consultant, I go around the world and teach databases for Oracle. But I found so many people in my class who are intimidated by technology. Whether it's, I've never used a mouse before, or what the heck is the internet, or how do I check my email? So I'm creating a non-for-profit to teach people how not to be intimidated by technology.
Okay. See, they want your card. Okay. All right. We're getting ready to close. I wanted to see if I can get a few people on. I want to interview behind the sign, so if you want to stick around for that. But in closing, I would like to say, again, thank you all for coming out this weekend, and especially on this important weekend. And I want to close with a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. He says, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" And I really think he would be proud to see us all in this room today. So, yeah, so give yourselves a hand, and thank you all for coming.